Today we are going to go over fasteners because there are all sorts of little screws, bolts, nuts, and all sorts of other threaded devices on your firearm, and it's very, very important that you know how to deal with them. Hey guys, this is Dave from the Learning Firearms channel. Thanks for checking out this video. Today we are talking about fasteners, which is basically a fancier term for a screw or a bolt or a cap screw, basically anything that's threaded on your rifle. Now, when it comes to a rifle, which I seem to have misplaced, oh, there it is. There we go. When it comes to your rifle, whether this is going to be a home defense rifle, a competition rifle, a patrol rifle, or just for fun, there's all sorts of stuff with screws, whether it's going to be your sights, your grip, your free-floating handguard, your rail, sling mounts, vertical grips, flashlights, whatever. All of that stuff, optics, is basically attached with a fastener of some type. And truth be told, every single class I've ever been to, hosted, taught, whatever, somebody has something that comes loose or falls off. Trevor can attest to it because he's been there and seen it. It happens.
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
There's too many fasteners on these guns.
I wouldn't say there's too many, but they're not properly fastened. And when I talk to those students, I usually ask them, hey, did you Loctite that or thread lock that or whatever? And they'll usually say, no, I just kind of tightened it. Believe it or not, when the gun goes kapowie, it vibrates, and sometimes that vibration can loosen things up. It's kind of like how stuff loosens up on your car. Same thing can happen on your gun. And for me, this is a particular one is a patrol rifle. Squad life is a tough life. They go from extreme hot to extreme cold in short periods of time, and that can also have issues as well. So we'll set this aside. So the example we'll be using today is this Midwest Industries QD mount for the aim point. We're basically using the factory QRP screws, and then we're just going to basically be attaching the Midwest Industries base to that. Now, what's important is to properly attach this, because this is your optic, and if this thing loosens up, it could affect zero, it could fall off, and obviously we don't want that. So what you're going to need for this project, you're going to need, of course, some thread locker. Now, the thread locker that I like to use is a gel type of thread locker. I like it because it is easy to use. It doesn't run. It doesn't, go at places where it shouldn't, and because it's gel, it's, it doesn't run. I think I already said that, so I think we got that covered.
It's not running.
Yeah, let's move on. But I really like this stuff. It works really well. A lot of times with optic mounts and stuff like that, it'll come with thread locker, so that's pretty cool too. You'll need some degreaser. I like denatured alcohol. It works out really, really well. So this is at a minimum. You'll need degreaser, thread locker. You'll also need a Q-tip or some rags, something to degrease and maybe apply. That works really good. I'm a big fan of paint markers to make your witness marks. We have other videos talking about that. And then as we get towards the bottom, you will definitely need a fastener tool. So you can either use like a T-handle. This particular one's a ratchet. I use this a lot. You can use a traditional type T-handle. You can use a small hex key. I'm a firm believer in using a torque tool, especially when you're working with some of these smaller fasteners. You don't want to over tighten them. When you do over tighten them, they can break, and that can just be a pain. Another tool that is not necessarily absolutely needed but can be very helpful with degreasing is a small butane torch or a lighter, and I'll show you how to use that. But at a minimum, you're going to need thread locker, degreaser, a rag, and obviously a tool. I'm a firm believer in the paint marker as well. So first things first, you're going to remove your screws, or you're going to get the screws out of the package or whatever you're working with. They're going to be oily. They're going to have either a lubrication from the factory, like a cutting oil or a machining oil, or they might have some sort of shipping, packing lubricant to prevent them from corroding or rusting during transit. They're going to have oil of some type on there that we need to remove. Not only do we need to remove it from the male portion of the fastener, but we also need to remove it from the female portion of the thing that we're going to be using. And obviously this needs to be cleaned out too. So what I recommend with denatured alcohol, what's nice is it's clear, and I'm not sure what's so funny.
I was just saying nothing. You're just cleaning your female parts.
Is that what I said?
No, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, well, we're going to clean the female parts with some denatured alcohol. And we're just going to take a swab, and what works nice with the swab is we're just going to go inside there, clean the threads, And because it's denatured alcohol, it's clean, it evaporates fast, and we're just gonna clean the threads out just like so. And you can see even on the swab we had some sort of, you know, oil or dirt or something. It's kind of tough to see there. So I'm a firm believer in 1 is none, 2 is 1, so we're just going to do that again. I'm going to use a fresh swab. Clean those, degrease them, make sure there's nothing on there. And again, we came across something. Now, if you want to, with your butane torch, you could give it a quick flash to evaporate all that. That's fine too. If you're a little more worried about the optic or whatever, that I completely understand. You could use a hair dryer or whatever, or you could just let the alcohol evaporate on its own in a moment. So we'll set this aside. Now with the fastener itself, I like to hold it with the tool, and then I'll actually use the butane or lighter to heat it up. That'll help kind of open up the pores. And what I like about this is I can just rotate it without having to touch it. Just going to heat it off. That'll burn off some of that oil, open up those pores. You'll see a little bit of smoke. Don't inhale. Put a little bit of alcohol. You can hear that on there. It's a little warm. This will help cool it. Set that aside. And you can see, you know, how much oil or lube or bluing or, you know, whatever they're using. Well, we just want to make sure we're getting to bare metal on there. So that way when we apply our thread locker, we're actually applying it to the fastener, not to a release agent, basically, if you will. So now we'll do the other one. So now we have our fasteners degreased. We have the threads on the receptacle degreased. We can start to get ready to assemble. So we can put everything together. Can you guys see that all right on camera?
We can see it.
Perfect. As far as how much, if you put too much on, it's just going to spooge all over. So we want to make sure we don't put, stop. I know it as soon as I said it. So we're just going to take a little bit, and I like to use the end of a cotton swab, or with the gel. What's nice is you can use your finger, and it doesn't run and spill and leak all over the place, which is great. So we're just going to take the thread locker, and we're going to put it on the threads, and I'll just kind of rotate my finger and get rid of the excess. You don't need a ton because it's going to spread out on its own, but I don't know, just about like that, give or take. Maybe a hair more in some of the spots. We don't need to put this huge drop because all that's going to do is when you start to tighten up, it's going to leak and ooze, whatever. So we just want to make sure we put amount there. If you're worried, maybe err on just a little extra. Obviously, if it was too light, that wouldn't be good either. So,
because you can always clean off the extra. Right?
Yeah, you can always clean off, yeah. But the liquid, it's much, you know, more relevant where it goes. But it might get in between the fastener and there or whatever. So not that big of a deal. But you know, generally about that much, give or take. We're gonna go ahead and insert that one in there. And for some of the fasteners that come with it, you'll see the blue on the fastener.
So
I know
it's not candy.
It's not candy.
Oh, okay.
Do you think it was blueberry flavored candy?
Well, it didn't.
Sure didn't taste like it, I bet.
It didn't taste like candy.
Yeah. I put a little bit more on this one just so you guys can see there's probably a little bit of a range. Both will work just fine. And then what's nice is you can wipe off excess. Go ahead and insert that in there like so. Now what I like to do is I'll just snug my fasteners down. And then I will use my torque tool. Now there are several charts available to figure out how much torque to apply. It's going to be in inch pounds. So make sure you use an inch pound driver like the adjustable torque driver here from Borka, or I will show you a method to use a regular hex key or T-handle here in a moment if you don't have a torque tool. A lot of the good manufacturers out there will provide spec on what their product is and it says, tighten this to 25 inch pounds, 30 inch pounds, 35 inch pounds, whatever it might be, they will provide that. If you're not sure, don't be afraid to call the manufacturer. If you're buying good quality stuff, they'll have good customer support. You can call them up and say, hey, I just want to make sure I don't over tighten this. How much torque should I apply? Their tech support will say, yeah, go ahead and do 30 inch pounds or whatever it might be. I'm going to apply these to recommended torque. And all I'm going to do is just use my Borka tool. Wait for it to break over like so. And we are at torque. Now I'll show you another technique. If all you have is a hex key, the reason why hex keys come in different sizes is obviously for different fasteners. But if you'll notice that as a hex key gets larger in diameter, it also gets longer in length. As it gets smaller in diameter, they get smaller. So if you have a set, they're all different length. And that is for torque. So if we insert the short end of the fastener, or excuse me, of the tool into the fastener, and as we start to tighten, you'll see that as I'm tightening, the long end is flexing and it's not actually tightening the fastener. That means we have reached maximum torque for this size key. So let me loosen that up and I'll show you it as we tighten. So right now I'm tightening, we're tightening, and now I get to the point where it starts to flex. And it's not actually tightening, we're flexing, I've reached maximum torque. Don't over tighten it. You could, yes, easily grab this and continue to tighten, but now we're over torquing, we're risking breaking the fastener. So wait for it to flex. Same thing with a T-handle. I'll use the other one for this. If we're starting to tighten, you can see, is that a better angle?
It's working, yep.
Okay, so you can see as we're tightening, the handle is flexing, but the fastener is not rotating. It's actually flexing. We've reached maximum torque. Don't go past this. If you really reach out and grab it, not only could you bend the tool or twist it, but you're applying too much torque. So if you don't have a torque driver, you can make it happen, but obviously a torque driver is the best way to go. And that's just how easy it is to apply thread locker and properly tighten a fastener. Now, I'm a firm believer in one last step, and that is to use a witness mark. And what a witness mark is basically a small line on your fasteners, so that way in case you were inspecting them, you could at a quick glance look at it and see. Now these fasteners, it's going to be pretty tough to look at because it's going to be mounted on your gun. But for these fasteners, and whenever I get something with fasteners, I'll take everything off and out, degrease it, reapply thread locker, and torque it to the proper amount. Generally, the smaller the size fastener, the less torque. The larger the fastener, the more torque. There's several charts and things like that available online. Once we've torqued everything to spec, we're just going to put a witness mark like so. And now, if we were to look at this, if something were to start to loosen up, those marks would not be in alignment, and we would know, hey, something went awry. Boom. We're done. That's just how easy it is. I hope you guys found this episode helpful. This is a question that we get somewhat often, and it's an issue I see all the time. People don't tighten their stuff properly. They under torque it. They don't use thread locker. And I am just shocked at how many people are afraid of thread locker. People tell me all the time, oh yeah, when it comes to guns, I'm not really a fan of that Loctite. I'm telling you, it is your friend. Generally blue, medium grade Loctite is removable with hand tools. You don't need any heat. In certain applications, red, which is a higher strength where you would need heat to remove that, might be appropriate depending on what you're working on. So it just kind of depends. When in doubt, always seek the help of a qualified, competent armorer or gunsmith. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. We absolutely love to hear from our viewers. Whenever you're working on anything firearm related, make sure you're doing so safely. Accidents can happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. To learn more about us, check out our training schedule, whatever you want to do. Check us out on Facebook, our webpage, and we just love to hear from you guys. Thank you guys again for watching, and have a great day. Hey shooters, if you're looking for high quality pistol and rifle ammunition for your carry, competition, or practice needs, look no further than caparms.com. Manufactured right here in the United States, it is very high quality ammunition that is extremely accurate, reliable, and dependable. Check out their webpage, caparms.com, for more information.